These 7 brutal calisthenics exercises build more muscle than lifting weights. Do them at home. Before we get started, please leave a comment with your name and the city you are watching from. We would love to know. Exercise number 1, mountain climbers. This is one of the few exercises that simultaneously combines cardiovascular conditioning and core strengthening, which is exactly why we open the list with it. Regular practitioners can raise their heart rate quickly while recruiting the rectus abdominis, the obliques, and the hip flexors in a single continuous set. If you have ever tried 30 seconds straight and felt your abs shaking, know that this is simply your body learning to stabilize the spine under fatigue. It is worth remembering that there is an important difference between abdominal hypertrophy and the definition that appears on the surface of the skin. The first depends on core training, like this exercise. The second depends mainly on your body fat percentage, which is determined by your diet. The famous six-pack, however, only shows up when your eating habits match your training. To perform it correctly, start in a high plank position, with your hands planted on the floor directly below your shoulders and your body forming a straight line from your head to your heels. From this base, drive one knee toward your chest and quickly return to the starting position, alternating legs at a steady pace, as if you were running horizontally. Keep your core braced throughout the entire movement to prevent your hips from rising or sinking. An extra tip: instead of chasing speed, keep your hips still while your legs move. This increases the recruitment of the stabilizing muscles. A common mistake is letting the hips rise too high, forming almost an inverted V shape with the body. This removes tension from the core and overloads the shoulders. Another frequent mistake is losing rhythm and performing incomplete movements without actually bringing the knee close to the chest. Perform 3 to 4 sets of 30 to 45 seconds with 45 seconds of rest in between. As your fitness improves, gradually increase the working time until you reach 60 continuous seconds. If you feel wrist pain, you can rest your forearms on the floor instead of your hands, maintaining the same movement pattern. Contraindications include acute shoulder injuries, active carpal tunnel syndrome, and uncontrolled blood pressure. Since the cardiovascular intensity can be significant. Exercise number 2, parallel bar dips. The parallel bar dip is one of the most complete upper body movements in existence, and it has been a staple in gyms for several decades for good reason. It simultaneously works the chest, the triceps, and the anterior portion of the deltoid, something rare in a single bodyweight exercise. An electromyography study comparing pushing exercises found some of the highest levels of lower chest and triceps recruitment, specifically in the parallel bar dip. The chest, by the way, does not only work during horizontal arm adduction, it also participates in internal shoulder rotation and flexion, which explains why this muscle is so heavily engaged in pushing movements like this one. To perform it correctly, position yourself on the parallel bars with your arms fully extended and your body suspended. Lean your torso slightly forward, keeping your shoulders down and back in scapular retraction, which protects the joint throughout the full range of motion. Lower your body by bending your elbows until they form an angle of approximately 90 degrees, then push back up to the starting position. Scapular retraction is essential here. Without it, the front of the shoulder is exposed to unnecessary stress, increasing the risk of long-term discomfort. An extra tip is to control the eccentric phase, meaning the descent, for at least 2 seconds. This phase represents an enormous share of the hypertrophy potential of the exercise and is frequently overlooked by those who only focus on getting back up quickly. A common mistake is keeping the torso completely vertical throughout the movement, which shifts most of the work to the triceps and reduces the stimulus on the chest. Another mistake is descending beyond the comfortable range of the shoulder, which can cause joint discomfort without necessarily adding any muscular benefit. Perform 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions. If you do not yet have enough strength, use a resistance band to assist the movement or rest your feet on the floor to reduce the load. No parallel bars available at home? 2 sturdy chairs, one for each hand, serve exactly the same purpose. Contraindications include active shoulder injuries, diagnosed joint instability, and persistent discomfort in the elbow or wrist during the movement. Exercise number 3, step up. The step up is one of the most underrated unilateral exercises when it comes to leg and glute hypertrophy, and the reason is simple. It requires balance. So many people avoid it and never end up reaping the results. Here's a fact you may not know. The gluteus maximus is the largest muscle in the human body, and most people have never heard this information. Despite that, many men completely neglect training this region specifically, which compromises not only aesthetics but also strength and performance in other movements, such as squatting and running. Beyond aesthetics, the glutes stabilize the pelvis. When they are weak, the tendency is to overload the lower back in daily life, contributing to chronic back pain. To perform the step up, stand in front of a sturdy bench or a solid step at a height close to your knee line. Place your entire foot on the elevated surface and push forcefully through your heel until you're standing on top of the bench, fully extending the hip at the top of the movement. Step down in a controlled manner without letting your body drop. The extra tip here is to always push through the heel, not the ball of the foot. This shifts the work to the gluteus maximus instead of overloading only the quadriceps. A common mistake is using the leg still on the ground to push off, removing nearly all the effort from the leg that should be working on top of the bench. Another mistake is using a bench that is too low, which reduces the range of motion and limits results. Beyond strength gains, the step up also improves proprioception, your ability to sense the position of your body in space, which is essential for preventing falls and injuries in daily life. Perform 3 to 4 sets of 10 to 12 repetitions per leg. As you progress, gradually increase the height of the bench or the number of repetitions before considering any external load. If you have a history of knee pain, start with lower heights, always keeping the knee aligned with the toes throughout the entire ascent. Contraindications include acute knee or ankle injuries, untreated balance problems, and persistent patellar pain during the movement. Exercise number 4, decline push-up. The decline push-up is the variation of the traditional push-up that most challenges the upper chest, and it's no coincidence that most people struggle to develop precisely this region of the chest. This happens because the upper chest has a different muscle insertion than the lower portion, and the working angle required to recruit it efficiently demands inclined movements, exactly like this one. This is why, even when training chest frequently, many people feel that the upper portion never grows at the same rate as the rest. To perform it, place your hands on the floor at shoulder width and rest your feet on an elevated and stable surface, such as a sturdy bench or the arm of a solid couch. Keep your body aligned from your head to your heels without letting your hips rise or sink. Lower your chest toward the floor by bending your elbows at an angle of approximately 45 degrees relative to your torso, then push back up to full arm extension. Just as with parallel bar dips, scapular retraction at the start of the movement protects the shoulders and improves chest recruitment throughout the full range of motion. The beauty of this exercise lies in simulating, using only your body weight, the stimulus of an incline bench press, without needing any equipment beyond an elevated surface. A common mistake is letting the elbows flare out completely to the sides, forming a 90-degree angle with the torso. This unnecessarily increases stress on the shoulder joint. Another frequent mistake is letting the hips sink due to a lack of core engagement throughout the movement. Perform 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 15 repetitions, adjusting the number according to your current strength. If it feels too difficult at first, reduce the height of the foot elevation until you build enough strength to progress. Contraindications include active shoulder pain, wrist injuries that worsen with direct floor contact, and diagnosed joint instability. Exercise number 5, Bulgarian split squat. The Bulgarian split squat is considered by many professionals to be one of the most efficient unilateral exercises for legs and glutes in existence, and the reason lies in how it isolates each side of the body. Research comparing muscle activation between unilateral squats and the traditional barbell squat found similar and sometimes superior levels of gluteus maximus recruitment, even without any external load. The hamstrings tend to be a neglected muscle group compared to the quadriceps, and this is a problem because the imbalance between these two regions is directly linked to a higher risk of knee injuries. It is essential to train both knee flexion and hip extension, and the Bulgarian split squat contributes significantly to this second function. To perform it, stand with your back to a bench and rest the top of one foot on it, behind your body. The front leg should be positioned so that, as you descend, your knee stays aligned with your toes. Lower yourself in a controlled manner until the front knee forms an angle of approximately 90 degrees, keeping your torso upright or slightly leaned forward. Drive back up by pressing the heel of the front foot into the floor. When you include the Bulgarian split squat in your routine, it is important to remember that the bench behind you serves only as a balance support. Virtually all the weight and effort should remain on the front leg. A common mistake is letting the front knee travel too far past the toes, which can create instability. Another mistake is placing excessive weight on the rear leg, which reduces the stimulus on the leg that should actually be doing the work. Perform 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions per leg. To progress safely, increase the number of repetitions first before considering any additional load. Contraindications include active knee injuries, untreated balance problems, and hip pain during the execution of the movement. Exercise number 6, pull-up. The pull-up is for many people the ultimate test of relative body strength, and it is no coincidence that it appears in virtually every serious calisthenics program. It primarily develops the latissimus dorsi, but also intensely recruits the biceps and the upper back musculature, while also placing significant demand on grip strength. Beyond the back, the pull-up recruits the entire posterior chain, including the spinal erectors, which act as stabilizers throughout the entire movement. To perform it correctly, grip the bar slightly wider than shoulder width, and hang with your arms fully extended. From this position, pull your body up until your chin clears the bar, actively contracting your back throughout the entire ascent. Lower yourself in a controlled manner back to full arm extension, without releasing the tension in your muscles. An extra tip that makes a significant difference in proper activation is to think about pulling your elbows down and back, rather than simply pulling your body up with your arms. This shift in focus tends to dramatically increase muscle recruitment in the back. A common mistake is using momentum, swinging the body to complete the repetition. This drastically reduces the muscular work and can unnecessarily overload the shoulders. Another frequent mistake is not completing the full range of motion, stopping the ascent halfway up. Perform 3 to 4 sets to failure, always prioritizing correct form over the number of repetitions. If you cannot yet complete a single full repetition, a simple alternative is to use a resistance band attached to the bar to assist the movement, or to perform only the eccentric phase, lowering yourself very slowly from the top. Contraindications include active shoulder or elbow injuries, severe grip strength limitations, and uncontrolled blood pressure, since the maximum effort required can be quite intense. Exercise number 7, glute bridge with elevated feet. The glute bridge with elevated feet is a simple progression from the traditional bridge, but one that considerably increases the range of motion and, with it, the recruitment of the gluteus maximus. It is worth reinforcing. The gluteus maximus is the largest muscle in the human body, and keeping it well developed goes beyond aesthetics. Because it is such a large muscle, consistent training of it is associated with greater post-exercise oxygen consumption, which raises your total caloric expenditure throughout the day. The hamstrings also participate significantly in this movement, since they contribute to hip extension, and in other contexts to knee flexion. Training both of these functions in a balanced way is essential for long-term knee health. To perform it, lie on your back with your knees bent and rest your heels on an elevated and stable surface, such as a bench or a sturdy chair. Raise your hips by actively contracting your glutes until your body forms a straight line from your shoulders to your knees. Lower yourself in a controlled manner without letting your hips fully touch the floor between repetitions. Remember to pause for 1 to 2 seconds at the top of the movement, squeezing your glutes with maximum force. This brief isometric pause significantly increases time under tension and improves long-term results. A common mistake is hyperextending the lower back at the top of the movement, trying to rise higher than necessary. This removes tension from the glutes and transfers the effort to the lower back. Another mistake is driving the movement with the lower back instead of initiating the ascent by contracting the glutes. Perform 3 to 4 sets of 12 to 15 repetitions, as this is a muscle group that responds well to a moderate volume of repetitions per set. Contraindications include acute lower back injuries, persistent hip pain during the movement, and diagnosed lumbar instability. These 7 exercises are already enough to transform your body, but we have separated 2 bonus exercises that deserve a special place in your routine. Bonus exercise number 1, L-sit. The L-sit is an isometric exercise that looks simple from the outside, but requires an impressive amount of core strength, hip flexor engagement, and shoulder stabilization, all at the same time. Unlike most exercises on this list, there is no repeated movement here. The demand comes from holding a static position, recruiting the core with an emphasis on muscular endurance and spinal stabilization. To perform it, sit on the floor or support yourself on 2 sturdy chairs positioned on either side of your body, with your hands placed close to your hips and your arms extended. Press into the floor or the chairs to lift your entire body, keeping your shoulders depressed and pulled back, and extend your legs out in front of you, parallel to the ground. Hold this position for the designated time, breathing in a controlled manner. What many people do not know is that keeping the shoulders depressed, meaning pulled away from the ears, makes an enormous difference in stability and comfort during the movement. Without this activation, the tendency is to feel discomfort in the joint very quickly. If the full version is still too difficult, a simple and safe progression is to keep your knees bent and drawn toward your chest instead of fully extending your legs. This reduces the demand on the core without losing the movement pattern. A common mistake is excessively arching the back in an attempt to lift the legs higher. This takes the emphasis off the core and can cause lower back discomfort. Another mistake is letting the shoulders rise toward the ears, which unnecessarily overloads the joint. Perform 3 to 4 sets of 10 to 20 seconds, always prioritizing posture quality over total time held. As your strength improves, gradually increase the time until you reach 30 continuous seconds. Contraindications include active wrist or shoulder injuries, diagnosed abdominal hernias, and persistent lower back pain while holding the position. Bonus exercise number 2, Copenhagen Plank. The Copenhagen Plank is a lesser-known exercise in traditional calisthenics, but it is widely used by sports physical therapists and soccer teams to strengthen the adductor muscles, those located on the inner thigh. The name comes from research conducted in Denmark, focused on preventing groin injuries in athletes who need to change direction quickly. Anyone can benefit from this strengthening work, since the adductors tend to be left out of traditional leg training. To perform it, lie on your side and rest your forearm on the floor, aligned below your shoulder. Place the foot of your top leg on a sturdy bench behind your body, leaving your bottom leg free. Lift your hips off the floor by contracting your core and adductors until your body forms a straight line from your head to your feet. Hold the position for the designated time. This exercise intensely works the hip stabilizer chain, a region that is frequently overlooked but essential for anyone who practices any activity involving running or changes of direction. An extra tip is to keep your hips projected forward throughout the entire hold, preventing your body from rotating backward. This small adjustment completely changes the demand placed on the adductor muscles. A common mistake is letting the hips drop toward the floor, which drastically reduces muscle activation. Another mistake is letting the torso rotate backward, transferring the work to other regions of the body. Perform 2 to 3 sets of 15 to 30 seconds per side. If the full version is too demanding at first, keep the bottom leg bent and resting on the floor as an extra support point, reducing the difficulty without losing the movement pattern. Including this movement in your routine, even just twice a week, is already enough to strengthen a region that most traditional training programs completely ignore. Contraindications include acute groin or adductor injuries, persistent hip pain during the hold, and diagnosed joint problems in this region. If you enjoyed this and want to see the best stretches used by the Japanese to undo years of poor posture and neglect of the body, we have a video appearing right now showing each one of them in detail. It is important knowledge for anyone over 50, so make sure to check it out. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and may God bless you, my friend.